Welcome to my channel. For more videos, please remember to like and subscribe. Alien women were looking for men to continue their lineage, and he volunteered. Adam had always told himself that exploring uncharted systems was a noble pursuit. It sounded heroic in his personal log anyway. The reality was a lot less glamorous. Long stretches of silence, rations that tasted like recycled shoelaces, and a ship navigation system that had the unsettling habit of rerouting him into debris fields without asking. He had once called the AI untrustworthy, to which it responded by shutting down his coffee dispenser for 3 days. So when the coordinates spat him out into a patch of space where the stars shimmered like oil slicks, Adam should have known something was about to go wrong. The ship shuddered, alarms howled, and the controls spun wildly. "This is fine," he muttered, gripping the console as sparks danced around him. "Perfectly fine. Just the universe trying to spice up my Friday." The planet came up fast, a glowing sphere wrapped in shifting auroras, as if someone had draped cosmic curtains across its atmosphere. The ship buckled, roared, and then kissed the planet's surface with the enthusiasm of a meteor. Adam stumbled out of the wreckage coughing, brushing dust off his jacket. The hull behind him groaned and collapsed further, like it was embarrassed about its landing performance. What he expected to find, toxic fumes, maybe a lizard with too many teeth. What he actually found? Women. Tall, poised, armed, and staring at him like a rare insect pinned to a board. Their features were strikingly human, but their ears stretched long and elegant, twitching with the smallest movements. They wore armor that glowed faintly with embedded circuitry, the kind of design that said both advanced civilization and we could vaporize you if we wanted. One of them stepped forward. She was taller than the rest, her presence cutting through the air like a blade. Her ears tapered gracefully, catching the light, and her eyes burned with authority. She said nothing, she studied him as though she could dissect him with a look alone. Adam, never good at silence, raised a hand. "Hi, Adam, human, occasional space crasher. Do you come in peace, or should I start running now?" Her lips curved, though not into a smile. "A man," she said, voice low but resonant. The word carried an almost ceremonial weight, like she had uttered a prayer. The others murmured, their long ears flicking in what Adam guessed was shock, or maybe indigestion. It was hard to tell. He glanced around nervously, then back at her. "Yes, last I checked. Is that unusual here?" "You are the first in centuries," she said. She moved closer, armor humming faintly with energy. "I am Aelara, leader of the Orion." "Well, Aelara," Adam said, forcing a crooked grin, "lucky for you, I'm very good at being male. Top-notch, really. 5-star reviews all around." That earned him a mix of laughter and scandalized whispers from the crowd. Alara's eyes narrowed, but he could have sworn amusement flickered there for the briefest instant. She raised a hand and the crowd silenced instantly. "You will come with us?" she declared. Adam lifted a brow. "Straight to the kidnapping? No dinner first?" 2 armored women stepped closer, weapons gleaming with contained plasma. Adam raised his hands in mock surrender. "Fine, fine. Let's just say this is the weirdest blind date I've ever been on." They escorted him across a sweeping plain toward a city that shimmered on the horizon. Spires of crystal spiraled upward, humming with energy, while glowing vines crawled along structures as if alive. Platforms floated effortlessly in the air, ferrying women from one tower to the next. It was breathtaking, a sight that screamed advanced science yet still felt strangely organic. Adam tried not to gape too openly, but when one of the vines waved at him, actually waved, he nearly tripped. "Friendly plants," he muttered. "Of course, why not?" Aelara walked beside him, silent but watchful. Adam glanced at her, trying to break the tension. "So, I'm guessing you don't get a lot of visitors around here. Otherwise, you wouldn't look at me like I'm the last slice of pizza in the galaxy." Her ears twitched. "Your humor is strange." "Yeah, I get that a lot," Adam said. "But it's how humans handle terrifying situations. You know, laugh or cry, and I'm not crying in front of an audience." At the city gates, the crowd swelled, whispers rushing like wind. Adam stood straighter, suddenly very aware that every eye was on him. He leaned toward Aelara. "Not gonna lie, this feels like I've accidentally signed up for some reality show. Survivor, Intergalactic Bachelor Edition." Aelara ignored the comment, though her long ears betrayed a faint twitch like she was suppressing something. The gates opened, and Adam stepped into the unknown heart of their world, his nerves buzzing as brightly as the glowing city around him. What had started as another reckless detour into uncharted space had turned into something else, and the women stared at him with awe, fear, and something he couldn't quite name. He swallowed hard, still smiling, because the alternative was admitting how much his hands were shaking. "Okay," he whispered to himself. "Let's hope they're more into conversation than dissection." Adam found himself standing in a chamber that looked like it had been designed by someone who couldn't decide between cathedral and spaceship. The walls shimmered faintly, alive with veins of light that pulsed like a heartbeat. At the center rose a circular platform, and on it, Aelara stood like she had been born there, her presence commanding enough to silence the low murmurs of the gathered women. He adjusted his jacket and cleared his throat. "So, is this the part where you tell me my fate, or do I get to roll dice first? I'm pretty good at board games." The room did not laugh. Aelara, however, tilted her head in that way she did when she wasn't sure if she wanted to smile or strike him down. "You speak much, human?" "Adam," he corrected gently, raising a finger. "Let's stick with names. Less awkward when you're plotting my destiny, don't you think?" Aelara ignored him and addressed the council. "For centuries, we have lived without men. Our fathers, our brothers, our mates, all lost. Disease, war, attrition, we carried on. But our lineage has weakened. The spark fades. Without renewal, our people will vanish." The chamber filled with a low hum of agreement, sorrow mingling with determination. Adam, suddenly aware of the gravity, scratched the back of his neck. "Okay, so you're telling me you're extincting? I didn't even know that was a verb." One of the council members, a woman with hair braided like a crown, glared at him. "This is not a matter of jest." "Right," Adam said, holding up his hands. "Sorry, nervous habit. When I'm scared, I either make bad jokes or sing. And trust me, you don't want the singing." The tension broke slightly, a ripple of chuckles weaving through the crowd. Even the stern councilwoman's glare softened. Aelara, though, remained unmoved. "We need a mate, a partner to rekindle our lineage, a man to restore what has been lost." Adam blinked. Wait, you're saying you need me? Specifically? Out of the entire galaxy, it's me who crash lands in your backyard and suddenly I'm the chosen one?" "You are the only one," Aelara replied flatly. He opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Wow, no pressure then, just the survival of your entire civilization resting on my very human, very breakable shoulders." He looked around the chamber, saw the hope and expectation in dozens of faces, and muttered under his breath, "Yep, definitely feels like a cosmic prank." The council began to argue in low tones. Some spoke of opportunity, others of danger. A stranger was a risk. What if his presence corrupted their traditions? What if he failed? Adam listened, not understanding half of what they said, but catching enough to know the stake. When their voices grew sharp, he raised a hand. "Excuse me, space ladies of great importance. Quick question. Do I get a say in this, or am I just along for the ride?" Alara's eyes snapped to him. "You have already been chosen by fate. Fate's a lousy travel agent," Adam muttered. But as the debate dragged on, Adam's humor faded into thought. He wasn't a soldier or a diplomat or even particularly responsible. He was a man who liked exploring, who stumbled into trouble more often than not. Yet here they were, looking at him like he was salvation wrapped in flesh and sarcasm. He turned to Aelara. "Look, if I agree to this, whatever this is, I need to understand. What exactly does being your mate involve? Please tell me it's not a death match or a spelling bee. I'm awful at both." Aelara stepped closer, her eyes locked on his. "It involves commitment. It involves sacrifice. You will be bound to us, to me, to our future." Adam swallowed hard, then let out a shaky laugh. "Bound to you, huh? Well, you could have just said you wanted to date. Would have saved us a lot of dramatic speeches." Her lips twitched, the closest thing he had seen to a smile. "You jest, but this is no game. If you fail, we all fail." The council's murmur rose again, some in favor, some still doubting. Adam sighed. "All right, fine, I'll do it. Someone's got to save the galaxy's ear models, and apparently that someone is me." The chamber erupted. Some gasped, others cheered. The council chair banged her staff, calling for silence. "Then it is decided. The man will be prepared for the ritual of continuance." Adam froze. "Wait, ritual? Did you just say ritual? You know, where I come from, rituals usually involve candles, chanting, and occasionally being sacrificed." Just to be clear, there's no sacrificing, right? Aelara's gaze lingered on him, steady and unreadable. That depends on your definition of sacrifice, he groaned. Of course it does. As the council adjourned, women approached to escort him out. He waved at the crowd with forced bravado. Thanks, everybody. No pressure, just rewriting your species' history. Easy stuff. Piece of cake? Speaking of which, do you guys even have cake here? The chamber echoed with laughter, and Adam let the sound wash over him, half comforted, half terrified. He had volunteered. He had agreed. And though he masked it with humor, he knew deep down this was only the beginning. The weight of destiny pressed on him, heavier than any crash landing could ever be. Adam had been through medical scans before, routine checkups, a broken arm from falling off a hoverboard, once even a suspicious mole shaped like a potato, but nothing like this. The chamber he was led into buzzed with an eerie hum, its floor rippling like liquid glass. Columns of light shot upward, twisting in patterns that made his eyes water if he stared too long. Aelara stood beside him, calm and poised, while Adam shifted nervously. So, this is your doctor's office? I'm guessing no lollipops at the end of the exam. A technician gestured for him to step onto a platform. He obeyed, muttering, "If this thing explodes, I want it on record that I did not sign any waiver." The moment his feet touched the surface, beams of energy scanned him from every direction. It was like being trapped in an airport security machine designed by a hyperactive child. Lights flashed, strange symbols scrolled through the air, and Adam yelped when one of the beams tickled his ribs. "Sensitive spot," he blurted, trying not to squirm. "Maybe skip that area." The Aryan scientists whispered to each other, their long ears flicking with excitement. Aelara folded her arms. "Your physiology is unusual," Adam groaned. "Please tell me unusual in a good way. Like world-class karaoke voice unusual, not "we're going to dissect you for science" unusual." She tilted her head. "Compatible, highly compatible, more than we anticipated." "Well, that's a relief," Adam said, "though I can't help feeling like I've just aced a test I didn't study for." The scans intensified. Holographic strands of DNA danced above him, weaving together with shimmering golden threads. The Aryan women gasped, some even stepping back. Adam craned his neck. "I don't suppose any of you want to explain why my genes are putting on a light show?" Aelara stepped closer. "Our preserved lineage, dormant for centuries, responds to you. It is as if your essence awakens what has been silent." Adam blinked. "Right, so in less poetic terms, my DNA is basically jump-starting your family tree? Like a cosmic car battery?" Aelara raised a brow. An odd metaphor, but correct. The scans concluded with a final burst of light. The platform cooled, releasing him as though the planet itself had been testing his resolve. He stepped down carefully, patting himself. Still intact. Good news. Always worry about being turned into soup in these situations. The council, who had been observing silently, erupted into excited conversation. Adam only caught fragments, words like restoration, hope, and destiny. He rubbed his temples. "You know, destiny would be a lot easier to handle if it came with instructions." Later, in a quieter chamber lined with softly humming consoles, Aelara explained, "Your arrival was foretold in fragments of our archives. A man from the stars, carrying the spark that would reignite our people. Most dismissed it as myth, yet here you are." Adam leaned back in his chair, staring at the glowing panels. "Great. So not only am I your last hope, I'm also a prophecy. No pressure. Totally fine. Definitely not panicking inside." She studied him carefully. "You joke often. Why?" He shrugged. "Because if I don't, I'll start screaming, and screaming tends to ruin first impressions." A faint curve touched her lips, gone almost as soon as it appeared. "Perhaps your humor is useful. It eases the fear." "See," Adam grinned. "That's me, intergalactic comedian/genetic savior." Their conversation was interrupted by a burst of static from the consoles. A hologram flared, projecting an ancient map riddled with glowing points. Aelara's expression darkened. "The ritual must be performed soon. There are those among us who will not allow it." Adam frowned. "Wait, you're saying not everyone's on board with saving the species? I mean, sure, I'm not exactly top-shelf material, but extinction seems like a worse option." "There is a faction," she admitted. "They believe our lineage should end rather than be altered. They see you as a contamination, not salvation." Adam groaned. "Fantastic. So I've crash-landed in the middle of a cosmic debate club, and I'm the topic nobody can agree on." Alara's voice hardened. They may try to stop us. You must be ready. He laughed nervously. Me? Ready? I'm barely ready for breakfast most days. You underestimate yourself, she said. Your presence alone has changed us. That is strength. Adam rubbed his face. Strength, huh? Well, let's hope it's enough. Otherwise, I'm going down in history as the guy who ruined an entire species with bad jokes and mediocre cardio. Aelara's eyes softened, just slightly. You will not fail. Careful, Adam said with a crooked grin. Sounds like you're starting to believe in me. Her silence spoke louder than words, and Adam felt a weight settle on his chest. Not the crushing dread of responsibility, though that was definitely still there, but something else. Something that made the idea of fighting for their survival feel less like a cosmic accident, and more like a choice. And if he was being honest, maybe even the right one. Training, Adam discovered, was a polite Orion word for, let's see how long the human lasts before collapsing. The first morning began with a sparring session against a woman twice his size who carried a staff that crackled with energy. He had barely picked up the practice weapon they gave him before she swept his legs out from under him. He hit the floor with a thud that echoed through the arena. From above, Aelara's voice cut through his groan. Again. Adam rolled onto his back, wheezing. Define again. Because if you mean stand up, I might need a few hours. The staff wielder offered him a hand, which he accepted gratefully. He stumbled upright, dusted himself off, and raised his weapon like a reluctant fencer. Okay, but let's take it slow this time. Maybe start with a handshake before the attempted murder. The Orion warriors laughed, their ears twitching with amusement. Aelara, however, didn't smile. You must learn. Our enemies will not be merciful. Yeah, but your definition of learning feels a lot like dying repeatedly. He tried again, lunging forward. This time, he managed to block one strike before the second knocked him spinning. The staff flew from his hands, clattering across the floor. Adam sprawled on the ground, groaning. Good news, he called out. I blocked one. That night, instead of resting, they subjected him to the cognitive trial. The chamber was filled with floating orbs of light that projected complex equations and shifting holographic puzzles. Adam stared at the glowing mess, scratching his head. Okay, so this is either math or it's abstract art. Either way, I'm doomed. The orbs rearranged, forming a spiral of glowing runes. Adam muttered, All right, Adam, think. You survived space debris, a crash landing, and being smacked around by warrior women. How hard can glowing homework be? He pressed symbols randomly at first, earning a loud buzz and a sharp sting on his fingertips. Okay, not random then. Got it. After fumbling through a dozen wrong answers, he noticed a rhythm to the symbols, a repeating pattern. With a mix of guesswork and sheer stubbornness, he managed to align the sequence. The orbs pulsed approvingly, and the chamber doors opened. Aelara was waiting. You solved it, Adam shrugged. Solved is a strong word. I'd say I annoyed the puzzle into giving up. For the first time, her lips curved faintly. Perhaps annoyance is a kind of strength. The training continued over days, physical trials, mental challenges, even exposure to Orion technology. Adam stood inside a machine that wrapped him in streams of light, testing his endurance against simulated environments, scorching deserts, freezing tundras, zero-gravity fields. He stumbled, sweated, shivered, and more than once cursed loudly, but he endured. Each night, Aelara checked on him. At first, their conversations were stiff, formal, her tone distant. But gradually, cracks appeared. When he joked about the training, she no longer silenced him. When he teased her about never smiling, she didn't deny it. Once, when he compared the training hall to a very aggressive gym membership, she almost laughed. Almost. On the sixth night, they sparred together. Adam, battered but improving, finally managed to disarm her with a desperate twist of his weapon. The staff clattered to the ground and he froze in disbelief. Did I win? Aelara straightened, her eyes narrowing. You are learning, he grinned. Translation, yes, I won. I'll be insufferable about this later. But the levity didn't last long. A messenger burst into the hall, her voice urgent. The disavowed have been seen beyond the ridge. Aelara stiffened, all humor gone. They come sooner than expected. Adam frowned. Disavowed? That sounds like a band name. Who are they really? They are those who reject the continuation of our people, Aelara said grimly. They see you as a corruption. They will do anything to stop the ritual. Adam rubbed his temples. Of course they will, because nothing in my life is ever simple. Preparations for defense began immediately. The city pulsed with heightened energy, warriors arming themselves, barriers rising with a hum of power. Adam was fitted with armor that felt both too heavy and too advanced, every piece alive with embedded circuits. He looked down at himself and muttered, "Well, at least I finally look like a superhero. Shame I fight like a confused janitor." Aelara stood beside him, regal in her battle gear. Her long ears twitched as she studied the horizon. The time is near. The ritual must proceed, no matter the cost. Adam forced a grin. Good pep talk. Just one question. Does the ritual involve less hitting than the training? Because my ribs are filing for early retirement. She glanced at him, expression unreadable. You will endure. You must. And for once, Adam didn't answer with a joke. He nodded, swallowing the fear rising in his throat. The weight of the choice he had made pressed down harder than the armor. The future of an entire people rested on him, and the disavowed were coming to make sure he failed. He thought back to the crash, to the moment he stumbled out of his ruined ship, dazed and unprepared. Now he stood armored, trained, still terrified, but no longer alone. And if fate had really dragged him here for a reason, then maybe, just maybe, he was ready to find out what that reason was. The first blast shook the city like a bell, sending ripples of energy across the crystalline towers. Adam nearly toppled over in his new armor, clutching the side of a wall. "Okay," he muttered, "so we're skipping the warm-up battle and heading straight into the finale. Good to know." The disavowed came in waves, their weapons humming with crimson light, their faces painted in streaks of defiance. Adam ducked behind a barrier as plasma bolts hissed overhead. He glanced at Aelara, who was already issuing commands with the ease of someone born for war. She didn't flinch, didn't falter. Adam wished he could borrow half her confidence. He peeked over the barrier, saw one of the attackers charging, and instinctively raised the staff he'd trained with. To his astonishment, the circuits in his armor lit up, linking with the weapon. A burst of energy shot forward, knocking the attacker flat. Adam blinked, stunned. "Okay, didn't mean to do that, but I'm not complaining." Aelara's voice rang out. "Fight with purpose. You are not alone." He stood a little taller, swinging the staff with something close to competence. Each strike lit up with sparks as the armor amplified his movements. He wasn't graceful, but he was effective. Between swings, he couldn't help shouting, "Somebody better be recording this, because I look amazing right now." Despite the chaos, the Orion defenders held firm. The city pulsed with shields and energy fields, shimmering like a living thing protecting its children. Adam fought beside Aelara, and for once, the jokes didn't come from fear. They came because he felt, strangely, like he belonged here. When the disavowed leader finally emerged, the battlefield seemed to freeze. She strode forward, her armor dark, her ears tipped with silver bands. Her voice carried across the chaos. "You dishonor our kind by consorting with him." Adam, panting, raised a hand. "Hey, consorting is a strong word. Can we downgrade it to collaborating?" The leader's glare could have melted steel. She raised her weapon, but Aelara stepped forward, staff blazing with energy. "This ends now. He is not our ruin. He is our chance." The clash between them was fierce, the air cracking with every strike. Adam rushed to help, stumbling, nearly tripping, but managing to intercept one of the disavowed warriors with a desperate swing. His arms ached, his lungs burned, but he refused to fall. Finally, with one decisive strike, Aelara disarmed the leader. The battlefield fell silent. The disavowed wavered, their unity splintering. Some dropped their weapons, others fled into the shadows. The leader glared at Adam, then at Aelara, and hissed, "You tie our fate to an outsider. May your hope be your undoing." She vanished into the chaos, leaving the city trembling but alive. Adam collapsed onto the ground, ripping off his helmet. "Well," he gasped, "that was terrifying. Do I at least get a medal? Or maybe just a nap?" The Orion warriors surrounded him, not with suspicion, but with respect. Whispers rose, not of doubt but of belief. He wasn't just the human who crash-landed in their world anymore. He had fought for them, with them. The ritual chamber glowed brighter than ever as they entered. Adam stood at its center, the ancient symbols pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. He looked at Aelara, nervousness flickering in his eyes. "So, this is it? No more tests? No more sparring? Because I swear if another puzzle orb shocks me, I'm out." Her expression softened. "This is it. Together, we begin again." He nodded, stepping into the light. Energy wrapped around them, weaving his DNA with the dormant threads of their lineage. It wasn't painful, but overwhelming, like standing in the middle of a storm that wanted to know every secret he carried. When it ended, the chamber was quiet, glowing softly, alive again. The council entered, awe on their faces. The lineage was restored, the prophecy fulfilled. The Orions had a future once more. Adam exhaled slowly, a shaky laugh escaping him. "Well, congratulations. You officially have a future, thanks to the clumsiest man in the galaxy." Aelara stepped closer, her voice low. "Not clumsy. Brave," he grinned. "Brave, huh? I like the sound of that. You know, I've been called a lot of things, reckless, ridiculous, occasionally handsome, but never brave." She regarded him for a long moment, then said, "Perhaps you were always brave. You only needed to see it." The city celebrated that night. Laughter, music, and light filled the air. Adam stood among them, not as an outsider, but as part of their story. He had stumbled into their world by accident, but he chose to stay, to fight, to give them hope. And for the first time in his wandering life, he felt he had found more than adventure. He had found purpose. As he raised a glass of something glowing and suspiciously fizzy, he muttered to himself, "Well, Adam, you've officially gone from crash-landing idiot to intergalactic hero. Guess miracles do happen." Aelara's laugh, rare, genuine, carried through the night, and Adam thought that maybe, just maybe, the universe knew what it was doing after all. The end.